Mm. Hey y'all, welcome to the Devon A. Morris Unfiltered Call-In Show. Have a seat. Let's get ready. You have any questions? Come on, call in. Come on to that Discord channel. Do me a favor, get the unfiltered crew some finger snaps. We're ready to get started here. Mondays, 8 p.m. Every single Monday, we're here. I'm excited about it. Are you? Let's get this show started, y'all. The greatest Scrum show on earth. I'll see y'all soon. Enjoy.
Hello. How are you today? Welcome to the Unfiltered Show, where we talk about Scrum, Agile, entrepreneurship, all those kind of things. I am your host, Devon Morris. I'm a certified Scrum trainer. I got all kinds of other certifications. Been around Scrum for a couple decades. So we should talk about things today, right? So our topic of the day, the first thing we're going to talk about is salary trends for Scrum professionals, right? I'm going to grab some traditional guys and then throw some Scrum folks in there and Agile folks in general and just kind of give a few things, right? And you'll see what things fall at. We'll talk about some trends. We'll talk about some factors that impact salaries. So I'm looking forward to that. But that will not start until we go through our initial stuff, right? So the way the show kind of works is we're here to answer your questions. We go through our topic of the day from about 5 after to about 30 after. Actually, I've been taking way longer the past couple of weeks, so we'll see what happens. However, we open the show up after we talk about the topic of the day, and we open the floor for your questions, right? We open the floor for your questions. So whatever questions you have, you're welcome to drop them in the comments, right? Drop them right there in the comments, or you can join me live on the show, right? A lot of people be a little sketchy about joining live on the show, but the truth of the matter is, if you have a really deep question, you have a really good question you want to ask, the best way for me to help you is by us exchanging, right? Because sometimes, you can type a question to me. I may not get some of the contextual information. So just an FYI. That being said, people that join the show, they take priority. I'll pass that link out later when it's time to open it up for it. But you know how it goes. So do me a favor, you out there, you know how we doing the show. Just go ahead and say hi, drop it in the comments, okay? If you're on LinkedIn or Facebook, I don't really monitor the comments there seriously. So you are welcome to come join us on YouTube, right? Just come on and join us on YouTube. It's a little bit easier. That way you can interact with the other people that are sitting there on YouTube and you can see some of the comments that are happening over there. And that's a better place for me to actually respond. I'm going to say make sure you like and subscribe. That's always important, and doing that earlier so the algorithm can send this to other people, right? I'll try to think about reminding myself to say it later because I always forget about it. But I just do what I do here. So that being said, what's going on this week? Really, I'm doing a CSPO this week. Yeah, next week I do a CSM. So if you're looking for that CSM, you're welcome to join us. Obviously, I do everything through Bearded Eagle, and so that's really what's going on over the next 2 weeks. I actually just wrapped up a term in terms of school, right? Um, it's an advanced qualitative research and reasoning, this type of class, right? Actually learned a lot. Actually learned a whole lot, right? It got me a little bit excited. It got me excited about what the hell my topic could potentially be for a dissertation. And the thing about that that's really interesting is that topic is going to be associated with us Scrum folks. There's no question. I want the topic to be associated with Scrum folks. I want it to be associated with coaching. Um, and it's probably going to be associated on people who are more disadvantaged than others, right? That's likely what it's going to be about, right? So we're going to touch on that at some point, but I have a whole year before dissertation, but I'm really excited. I'm like excited about the possibility of that topic, right? The possibility of a few topics that are kind of new that I'm noodling with. So, more to see on that. If you think I'm in school just to mess around, I'm crushing it with a 4.0, right? So I got A's straight across the board. We'll see what happens this upcoming quarter, but I got A's across the board, man. So I really don't mess around with that mess. Just trying to do what I say to other people, hey, don't do it halfway. Go all in if you're going to go in. So that being said, I see we got a few people here. I see got a few people that have said hi. I will respond and say hi back to you. But I want to get into the topic, right? Because I think this topic is it's just a beautiful topic, right? And that topic is salary trends for Scrum professionals, right? Salary trends for Scrum professionals. And this right here, you know, hey man, the truth of the matter is, many people that I know that have had conversations with me about Scrum, the biggest reason why they came to Scrum, to Agile in general, to IT, right, was because of money, right? Let's be real, right? Um, I came and became a software developer because of money, right? And so I think the same thing aligns here. But the question becomes, what are those things that kind of impact us still in 2024? And those are things I want to address. And then we'll talk about some other things along the way. But just kind of to get the conversation started off, what factors really impact salary? You all probably are aware of many of these factors. I hope that you are. If any of this is new to you, then just take it in, deal with it accordingly. It just is what it is, right? But if you've been around doing this, there are things that impact our salaries, right? Probably one of the biggest things that impact our salaries is going to be experience and expertise, right? The truth of the matter is, if you can show a proven record of successful agile implementations, you know, um, methodology agnostic, right? I don't care what framework you're talking about. So, framework agnostic. If you can show successful implementation of agile, scrummish stuff, right, you likely will be able to command a higher salary, period. There's no if, ands, or buts to it, right? Um, Over the years, one of my biggest experience was a lot of people that were agile coaches who started efforts but never finished them. So that means that they don't really have a track record of really delivering anything. They only have a track record of starting stuff. Does that make sense? And so when you have when you've delivered things, you actually learn a lot. Okay. Um, when it comes to expertise, you can show expertise through things like your certifications. Um, you can show expertise in the way you answer questions for people. Most of us realistically know at this point that ideal anything doesn't really work in most worlds. I don't know too many organizations that are doing anything perfect, right? And so if you're the person that actually gets an organization to do something absolutely perfect, you probably should quit there and go get paid a lot of money someplace else, realistically, because it's really a hard thing to do to get an organization to be perfect because we're always in that true pursuit of perfection, and that's just kind of what we do. So really, that real big first thing is that expertise, that experience and expertise, right? The next thing on our list that actually does help out is actual certification. And here's the deal. You know, I'm always going to push that CSM, but you got a PSM out there. You have a safe Agilist out there. Those are probably the most popular in terms of, certs. So you start thinking that there's PO versions of that, right? So you got a Scrum Professional, a PSPO, a CSPO, right? SAFE has this version of a PO, right? And these certifications actually matter. They actually matter, right? They actually show people who look at you as a prospect for their opportunity that you've done something, that you've at least gotten a base level of knowledge, right? And, you know, at least from my perspective, over the years, people with certifications have been able to command a higher salary, right? And so I always tell people because they contact me in terms of Bearded Eagle, and they say to me, is it worth getting a certification? And the truth of the matter is that you don't need a CSM, a PSM, or anything to do Scrum. You just don't need it. But if you want to be marketable, it's a good idea, right? Here's a question, because I know a lot of you all have many certifications. I want to know from you, in terms of our space here, what has been the one, two, or three most valuable certifications for you? Drop it in the comments, okay? Drop it in the comments. The ones that have really helped you command your salary, or that people ask you the most questions about, right? That they find the most interesting, but that helps you command the salary that you either earning or that you plan to earn. You know, for me, especially initially, because I like to go there first, it was the CSM and it was the PMP combination. That was the magical combination. Yeah, I had a master's, I had a bachelor's, right? I think those things helped out because sometimes people want to see that you finish something. But having those two things and adding that CSM and that PMP, which I got the PMP in September of 2005 and a CSM in October of 2005. It was truly like back to back to me, right? Um, and I don't throw away I will never throw away my PMP, because I find that the people that get paid a lot of money, for real, you know, project managers get paid a lot of money, especially ones that know Scrum. It's just facts, right? You know, my first two or three jobs, well, two jobs minimum, had the word project manager or planner associated directly with it. So I don't shake that, right? I think it's really important, um, but I think you need to understand what certs can help bring the value that you want to receive, because people get certs out here and don't use them, right? A great example of that is I was in the I was a PMIACP, and that cert didn't do anything for me, right? It just didn't, and so I let it lapse because I just said, well, there's no point. Maybe I let it lapse. I'm not sure. Anyway, my point I'm making to you, I got that certification as one of the first 6,000 people in the initial pilot of it, right? And it just didn't do nothing for me, right? But it's really important for you to determine what's going to work for you, you know, in terms of how you think, in terms of the style, in terms of what you're trying to do, right? Now, one thing that seems to be becoming less of a factor, but it still is a factor, is going to be location. Location has a tremendous impact, right? Geography has an impact on salary levels, right? Um, you know, one of the things that I tried to do early on is go to locations that was tech hubs. Is go to locations that had a higher cost of living, right? I was from Chicago. I'm like, let me go to DC, let me go to New York, let me go to these places that's gonna just pay me, right? And I found that when I went to a location, they paid me more money. It just was that simple. Even on contract, I got paid more money, right? So locations have a huge impact, right? Smaller places have a lower cost of living, um, and usually salaries are lower, right? Today, you know, I always get my shirts embroidered. I'm getting something embroidered again, right? In terms of Bearded Eagle, and I'm surprised with how much it's going to cost me to embroider. Like it's cheaper, way cheaper than I was ever expecting, right? And so I'm just like, okay, that's interesting. But again, I live in a lower cost area. But in terms of salaries, yeah, there's a difference between Chicago and Dallas Fort Worth. There's a difference between New York and Dallas Fort Worth. There's differences in those salaries. And it could very well have a huge impact on you, right? And so location is one of those factors that has an impact on you. Okay. Another thing that is interesting, right? Um, and people don't always consider this, but I considered this early on, and it is company size in industry. Company size in industry. This is interesting, right? Because I found IT was the place to go. You understand? And IT is in everything. I feel like IT, the tech profession, is higher paying. Technology related job is higher paying than anything else, right? So if I'm a scrum master, I'm really jumping. If I'm a PO, I'm really jumping more into the tech world. It's just facts. That's what I'm doing. And it's what I've been doing since the jump. That's the reason why I got into tech in the first place, right? Because I'm looking over here and I go get a master's, a doctorate in terms of psychology, and come out making roughly the same money. That mess is unfair, right? So I went to check tech immediately, right? Now, the other side of that I said, which I've been advising people on for many, many years, is the size of the company. The size of the company to me is important for a couple reasons. Bigger companies tend to pay more money. They got the dollars, man. They just do, right? And so I made sure that in my first years in Scrum, I was working with Fortune 500 companies, no question, like seriously, right? And the other thing that I found with bigger companies is that I wasn't there by myself. Especially when you're growing and you're learning, I never wanted to be the smartest person in the room, the smartest person in the room in the very beginning. I didn't want to be that. I wanted to have people around me that could teach me something, that I can pull something from, something of value, that I can learn from their experience and use that to bolster my experience. Does that make sense? And I'm just like, that's the way I always did it, right? And the question I have for you all, because some of you all have been in this game for a little bit of time, what do you think about that statement, right? If you were new in this game and getting in the Scrum, getting in this whole Agile game, would you focus on working for smaller companies or big companies? What's your comfort level? Because I do believe firmly that has an impact on your salary. Have you seen the same thing as my question? Drop it in the comments, right? Because I've seen it to be that. Well, technology definitely nobody can even question that one, right? But also company size, right? Those two things are huge in terms of your salary. So something to consider. Something to consider as you're trying to command whatever it is you're trying to have for yourself, right? Now, we're not going to stop there, okay? Because the economy, various economic factors definitely have an impact, right? Look, stronger economies correlate with higher salaries. And the good thing for us is we've had some good economic turns in 2023 that have led to good places in 2024. So I think that we have that kind of economy where you can command that kind of salary that you're looking for if you approach the game right. So just know that if you're in a particular region and that region is not having a good economic time, um, that could have an impact on your salary, right? Overall, the South is very different from the Midwest, is very different from the West Coast and the East Coast. They're all very different, and the salaries can range and have a huge impact, right? And so it's just one of those things where you need to think about that, right? And so let me repeat these things to you because I think it's important, right? Um, those five things, right? That impacts your salary. The first one that I talked about here was expertise and experience, certification, location, company size, and industry. That one is so key to me, right? That one is so key to me, right? And it's interesting because I saw right here, Patrick say, "Hey, a big company offers you the opportunity for mentors and access to more organized resources and fosters growth and learning, especially if you're a newbie." That's probably the biggest reason why I would go to a bigger organization. But again, that may not be a good impact for your salary, but that's an impact for your future salary, right? It really is an impact for your future salary. So that's important for you to know. And then just basic economic factors, right? But here's the deal. We don't stop there because the truth of the matter is there are certain trends that are impacting us in 2024. And I was researching this, and I think that these four things you need to consider, when you're kind of trying to command that salary. The first thing on this list is going to be, look, people, one thing about the field that we're in, Agile professionals are expected to remain in high demand in 2024, period. Organizations are prioritizing transformations. They have to prioritize salaries to get the best people, right? So that means it breeds competition. So that means if they want the best people, they got to offer competitive salaries. And there is nothing about our field where it's just dying out. It is not. And the people are still, sometimes I sit here and I'm going through a certification class and just like, man, I've been doing this a long time. Why are these people still coming? This thing ain't died yet. It has not. It's still growing, which is crazy. So just know that, right? Know that there's competitive salaries out there, and fight for your right to have what you command. It's extremely important. The next thing, right, on this list is certifications at a premium, right? All the data shows that certifications boost your salary. They add a premium to your salary, right? If you don't have certifications, degrees, whatever it is, right, then they can offer you something lower than that, right? But if you have the certification, normally it is a really good investment, right? I can say this with everything in my heart. That investment in that CSM in 2005, it's paid for itself in spades, man. I mean, so realistically, and when I say to you that having that PMP, having that CSM doubled my salary, that's what it did. When I went from State Farm to Capital One, my mess doubled. My wife at the time, I put the dang on offer in front of her and she said, "You got to leave." Like, for real, I'm not even joking you, right? I wish I was. It was like a double, right? Which is crazy when I think about it, right? It's crazy because probably 3 years prior, I was begging another company to just pay me $10,000 more, and they wouldn't do it. You understand? Then that company came back and offered me something. And I was just like, "No, I want this ridiculous money." And they said, "Well, we'll pay you that." I said, "No, I'm not interested. I'm not coming back." So it's just an interesting thing, right? It's an interesting journey. Okay. Also, when it comes to this, there are geographic variations, and know where you're at, right? If you're in a technology hub, man, take advantage of that, right? New York City, Dallas Fort Worth is becoming more of a technology hub. There's places in different cities that tech is huge, right? If I'm living down in Austin, right? Look, it's important for you to understand that. What regions and what parts of the country offers more competitive compensation packages, right? You have to study this so you can be best prepared to command what you're looking for. Not to mention, there's diverse opportunities all over the place, right? I'm in class today, right? And I got a young lady that is been in healthcare for 10 years, right? One of the biggest why I see Agile more and more now these days is in healthcare. You understand? Healthcare, finance, human resources, right? I'm seeing it just go into other parts that's just not just focused purely on IT and delivering software. I'm seeing other parts of organizations start to dive more and more into this, right? So it's not just, hey, a department, it's whole sectors of the economy, of industries where you can apply this stuff. And when you have that other domain knowledge, that can really help you out, right? So just be creative about your opportunities, right? One of the big things that have had an impact on us recently has been this thing of remote work. All you all know, because you've been through it, COVID-19 changed everything, didn't it? Here's my question for you, right? Prior to COVID-19, in terms of the Agile space, all the tools that we have right now existed, right? But how much was you going into the office for real, for real? How difficult was it to get people to be on a virtual anything with you, right? Yeah, collaboration tools have gotten better, but basic video conferencing was there, and we could have utilized these tools. But most of the times when I utilize those tools with people, man, people wouldn't even show up, man. But today, whole people are working from home full time all the time, and not like that wasn't happening before, because remote work existed. Okay, now don't be crazy with your remote work, right? Because I've seen a lot of people take on 4 or 5 jobs and end up getting fired from all of them. I've seen people, there's this commercial out there saying you can work 1 hour a week and make $250,000. Some of you all may have seen this commercial, right? Have any of you all made $250,000 working 1 hour a week, basically 52 to 60 hours in a year? Have any of you all done that, right? And understand, if that opportunity came to you right now, where you could make $250,000 in a year working 1 hour a week, I would be all over that. You feel me? I would be all over that. People be lying on the internet, man. Have y'all seen that? Let me know. Have y'all seen that, right? Because something that I saw and I was just like, no, y'all tricking people, man. Y'all tricking people into some mentoring thing that has no guarantees they're going to make anything near that. Anything near that. So to me, that's a complete lie. And I don't lie to people like that. I just don't. I never have and I never will, right? But I've seen that, right? Maybe y'all haven't experienced that, but I saw it, right? I'd be all over it. All right, so that being said, again, um, those things right there in terms of salary trends boil down to that certification premium, the competitive salaries, geographic variations, diverse opportunities in remote work. Okay. Now, here's what I really had to spend some time on, and I want you all to really, this is information as of today. If you watch this video, it's February 12th, 2024. If you watch this video sometime after this information could very well change in any direction, right? I don't guarantee any of the information that I'm talking about here. I got all the information from Glassdoor, so you can actually go look it up yourself if you want to. But this is directly from that. And I want to make sure that I get to grab the ranges too. So let me open up these ranges real quick, because I want you to really, really understand not just where the salaries are at, but the ranges, right? Because that's what we're going to talk about. So let me open that real quick, because I got a whole file for this stuff, right? And so this is going to be interesting, right? Because salaries are really what I really wanted to get at during our time together this time, right? And when you look at this, some of you this won't be surprising to you at all, right? Other people, you're gonna be like, yeah, I want that, right? But I'm gonna talk about salaries and ranges and talk about different perspectives, and I want to make sure that you see those perspectives. I'm gonna talk different people, right? So first thing I want to do is talk about a role that's near and dear to many of us, right? And that is the role of a project manager. Okay. Now, if you look, you see that first blue column, you see that a project manager classically, across the United States makes $100,000 a year. Classically across the United States. That's what you have. The range, probably the range is 95% or what, I don't know, but whatever that range is, the range that they provided me when I looked at that is that the high for a project manager in general is $129,000 and the lowest $77,000. Okay. Now I want you to look way across to the red. Somebody who has a PMP, their average is 35, and their range goes from 108 to 169. Does that make sense? You understand where I'm coming from? Now, if you look, you see New York City there with an average of 110, DFW an average of 102, and remote work seems to fall in the same place, right? So literally, if I was in DFW, I'd actually just go ahead and try to remote work. But the idea is that obviously New York City is a bigger hub than what DFW is. Now the DFW is a small place, right? But if you're living in NYC, the cost of living is higher. You expect a higher salary, okay, which is expected. But I want you to just really look that certification of a PMP. That premium is actually amazing. So putting in that kind of work to get that kind of boost is something that you should absolutely fight for. It makes taking that cert serious. Does that make sense? And so I know that a project manager isn't a classic agile role, but how many of you all that are scrum masters aren't dealing with the fact that you're a parts project manager, right? Most of you are dealing with that fact real easy. Now, the role that many of us will be concerned about is going to be this next role here of Scrum Master. A classic Scrum Master, right? Just across the board in the US is making about 114. About 114. The range of that is going to be 92K to 140. Okay? 92K to 140. In NYC, that goes up $5,000 to 119, with a range that can go from 96 to 150K. While in DFW, that's a little bit lower than our average at 110. Cost of living is less, right? And that range is 90K to 136,000. And then if you're remote working, it's 111, and that range is 90 to 137. But being certified, that almost gets you an $8,000 premium, right? Being certified, right? And so that range in terms of them is from 98 to 122K, okay? Not 122, 154K. So that is 98 to 154K. That's what you're talking about as a Scrum Master. Now I'm talking about salary here, right? Okay, so really, really important for you to see that, okay? Now, again, here's something that I had to do. I had no choice but to do this, right? What if you're a mix, PM/SM, which a lot of you all are that? You're probably going to fall somewhere in the middle of those things. Take a look. And I couldn't do a certified one because, again, I don't know which certification to apply. What if you have both of them, right? But a project manager that is also a Scrum Master, and this is weird. Nationwide is $133,000, but it's 119 in NYC, 110 in DFW, but 129 for remote. It's quite interesting. There's a premium on remote. I mean, there's a heavy premium on remote, especially people that can get that work done and show that they got some abilities there, right? If you go to the ranges, you'll see ranges that are interesting, right? You look at that first one, that range, just the US based blue there is 109 to 163,000. While in New York, you're talking about 96,000 to 150. That's a big range. In DFW is 90,000 to 136, and then remote is 105 to $158,000. I mean, is this not interesting, right? So I said to myself, what if I pulled out the actual role or title of an Agile project manager? And, that kind of levels things out to some degree. I see that a classic Agile project manager makes 130. That range been 105 to actually 161. If you're in New York City, you got an average of 140 with a range being 112 to $176,000. In DFW, you got 126 with a range of 104 to 153K. And if you're working remote, that's 81, right, to 129K. For me, I'm looking at these numbers, y'all, and I'm seeing nothing less than six figures on most things that you can make on average. On average. You understand? Let me ask a question here. Because people out here is making this kind of money. Am I blowing smoke? Am I blowing smoke? Because I went to Glassdoor and I grabbed numbers from there, right? Am I blowing smoke here, right? Because I've made this kind of money, and some of you all in the room have made this kind of money. Be real with me. Is this a lie? Am I saying things that are not true here? Because this is 10,000% true. I see it again and again and again And you got to remember those factors that we talked about, right? Those factors that can impact your salary is going to push you up and down that range. So these are things that you need to think about. But if I'm lying, let me know. If I'm lying, let me know, right? Because this is what I see. My question is, are you seeing that? Drop it in the comments. Drop it in the comments, right? This is serious, right? Because people start, always come to class. Hey, how much do Scrum Masters make? Man, it's easy to go find. Look it up, man. But I did the job for you, right? Now, here's the deal. I'm not going to only focus on Scrum Masters here because, another role I think is classically an amazing role is that role of the product owner, people. I love playing the role of product owner. Man, I remember back in the day when people wouldn't respect the product owner, and the salaries of product owner have been creeping up over the decades, right? To where I look at this, hey man, it surpasses that of a Scrum Master. Plain old Scrum Master. Look at that. When I say to you, 135 on average across the US for a product owner, right? And again, I expect product owners to have domain knowledge, right? The range is 107K to 172K, right? In New York City, we're talking about $146,000 with a range that goes from 115 to 188. In DFW, hey man, it's 136. That look like a big drop. It's 130 here, right? With a range of 105 to 163. If you're working remote, you can do that job. 132 with a range from 105 to 168K. And man, if you're certified, you rocking New York prices at that point. 146K is your average with a range of 118 to 184. Just imagine if you sitting up here certified product owner in New York City. You're certified product owner in New York City. You clowning. You clowning, but you're spending the grip on everything else is the problem, right? You can find a way to live cheap, maybe live in a tent, and you'll be good to go. But you understand where I'm coming from, right? It just kind of the way it just lands that way, right? So, I mean, I looked at that product owner, I'm just like, I should have been a product owner over the years and got all that domain knowledge, man, because I'd be clowning. But hey, what about another role that's important? And I'm going to divide this role into two because I need to, right? The software developer. When I look at this, I'm just like, okay. All right, I'm expecting more from a software developer. But you got 113, right? 113 on average across the US, and there's all kinds of, and this doesn't go down to a specific language, anything like that, or a specific certification. If you had certifications, I would guarantee you this would go up higher, right? But if you look, you got 113 on average, that's 94 to 136K. When you're in New York City, you got 119, you got a $6,000 boost, right? That's 96 to 149K is what the range is. And then when you're looking at DFW, you're talking about 109 with a 94K to 126K. Okay, that sounds pretty good to me. But if you're working remote, which a lot of developers do absolutely work remote, you're talking about 111, 87 to 141. But here's the deal. This is the way you clown the system. Just make sure instead of being just a software developer, you for sure make yourself into a software engineer. As a software engineer, we're talking about 141K. 141K, right? On average, right? That's 113 to 176K in terms of the average, right? When you're in NYC, you got $157,000 with a range of 125 to 198K. That's almost $200,000, people. In DFW, you're talking about 125 average, 105 to almost 150, so 149K. And then you got, if you're working remote, you're sitting squarely at 130. You're talking about 103K to 166K. I mean, literally, when I say to you, in today's world, I'd definitely be a software engineer, no question. But look at what you can command here, right? And I'm not even with the software developers. I ain't even mentioned any certifications that they can get, right? Now, I ain't mentioned not a single certification that they can get, right? So really, really, really important, right? And these are the possibilities that if you haven't done this, that await you, that absolutely await you, right? And so for me, if I'm you and I'm new to this game, I'm excited about this game. I really am. Because I mean the sky's the limit. And you make sure you meet the right factors to make sure that your salary goes up higher. You understand? That's what I've always done. Looked at factors that people are going to be interested in so that my salary can get higher and higher and higher. You know, a lot of people, I mention this every once in a while, right? I'm a software developer by trade. That's what I went to go get my initial certification in, right? And I'm a mainframe programmer. That's what I am. That's what I trained to be, a mainframe programmer. And I'm going to tell you right now, back then, when I was in my 20s, I became a mainframe programmer because every mainframe program that I looked at was in a 50s, 60s, or 70s. And so I said to myself, they gonna die. And the more of them to die off, I can always get a job as a mainframe programmer because most of these organizations is not getting rid of mainframes. You understand? That was my thought in my 20s that, man, they're going to have to retire. They're going to have to be out the game at some point, and my salary is just going to boast up and go up. And so I wasn't interested in those other things because my objective was to make money, to be able to take care of my kids. I didn't have them yet, but that was my primary objective, right? Especially after doing work in the community and people not looking very happy after they've been there 20 to 30 years. So realistically, these are things that I want you to think about. These are things that I want you to be excited about. And again, I'll ask once again, am I lying to you with these numbers? Am I making this up? People, I'm not making this up, man. I'm not making this up at all. You understand? And I wish these kind of numbers was available to me when I was getting the Scrum. I would have been in Scrum much quicker. I'd have been around the Agile game much quicker. I'd have been like, project managers make that? Oh, give me that PMP. Right? Oh, developers make that? You know what? Engineers, what do I need to be specifically a software engineer? You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to be a PMP and a software engineer with a CSM and a CSPO at the same time. Get me a master's, get me a doctorate, give me all the money is what I'm going to be saying, right? Give me all the money. That's what I'm going to be doing, man. For real. Like, that's what I'll be doing. Like, I'm not even joking you. You understand? Anyway. Y'all know I'm not lying about this, right? I see Miss White jump out and just like, hey, you are correct. In some cases, are conservative, depending on unique factors. Absolutely. Yeah, it's absolutely true. Patrick knows it's true too. All y'all know it's true. Y'all been out in these streets. Y'all know, right? Anyway, I think I went through all the ones that I wanted to cover. Hopefully that gives you a good breath, a good idea. And here's the deal. Next Monday, our topic is going to be Agilicious. Skyrocket your salary. Agilicious, skyrocket your salary. That's what we're going to talk about next week, right? I'm trying to focus February in on making some money, people. That's what it's all about, Anyway, that being said, here's the deal. We're going to wrap that topic up with a nice little bow on it, right? And I want to go ahead now and open the floor for any questions that you may have about either that topic or other things, right, related to Agile Scrum entrepreneurship, right? As usual, you are welcome to drop that information in the chat. And what we classically do, if you want to join live, you can do that as well. I'm going to drop the link in the chat if you want to join live. But, if you're over on LinkedIn, you probably want to join us on YouTube, right? Let's see. I want to give my shout outs to people as people think about the questions that they want to ask. We got a good solid 15 minutes in here. If there's no questions, we'll shut it down. But y'all know how we do. Patrick, how you doing there, brother? It's always a good time seeing you, Patrick. I got D here. How you doing, D? How you doing? Let me go ahead and throw D's name up there again. There you go, D. Hey, Rajiv, how's it going? Everything's good with you? Fabian, how you doing there? Hopefully life is good. All right. Anthony, I seen you throw some great comments out there. I appreciate you. Evelyn, how you doing, Evelyn? Man, life is good in these parts, right? Hopefully it's really good for you. Let's see. Miss White said something. I don't think she said it hi to me, which is ridiculous. What's up, Philip? How you doing, Philip? How's it going, man? Hey, man, we always take the opportunity to give back, and I appreciate how you give back too, brother. Let's see, Lorraine, how you feeling? Yeah. That stuff is accurate in New York for sure, right? Renisha, how's it going? Hey, project coordinator, boost up to the next thing you want to get to, right? The sky's the limit. Trust me. Miss White, how you doing? As usual. Let's see. Okay, so the initial question that I have here is how do you feel about freelancing in Scrum? Are you talking about freelancing like on Upwork and Fiverr and stuff like that? I mean, if you can turn it into some money, I don't see no reason why you shouldn't. When I was coming up, those things didn't exist. So my freelancing was just getting contracts. I firmly believe in getting contracts, right? But I will say to you this, period. If you're gonna go and get contractual work and not be salaried and not be an employee, understanding anybody can fire you at any time. I agree with that, right? Um, but make sure you have an emergency fund. That's it. Make sure you have an emergency fund because, as a contractor, a freelancer, you can get let go sooner and people can say to you with ease, hey, we don't need you to come back. Okay. So just make sure that you have that emergency fund. Um, in order for me to get Bearded Eagle really going, I had to have an emergency fund. But I learned to have an emergency fund because I went out there and started consulting. And you just got to make sure you make enough money to be able to cover things that need to be covered that what companies would cover. So don't think you're going to make the same exact money. You need to make more to cover the things the company classically pay for. Like companies may pay for some of your insurance. Companies pay additional in tax, right? Because you work for them, you pay some tax, they pay some taxes. There's certain things you got to think about as a freelancer. Just make sure you're making enough money and make sure you actually have, a contingency plan and an emergency fund. You do those things, you are helping yourself out tremendously. Um, that's the recommendation that was given to me as I was thinking about leaving, Allstate and those kind of things in the very beginning. And so you added on to it. So your addition is, and yes, and how did you start out consulting and contracting? I just went on a website and found contracts, right? In today's world, LinkedIn, I don't know if Monster's still up. Dice was heavy for me back in the day. And so I would actually, go ahead and just build out and just go into contracts with organizations that was looking for people, right? Probably the company I spent quite a bit of time with initially was Tech Systems. Tech Systems was there, and they were heavy in the game. Your Deloitte's, your, Cognizant in today's world. So I think there's a lot of organizations out here that offer opportunities, contracting opportunities. And for me, when I think about it, I was an employee at Allstate. I was a contractor at State Farm. I was a contractor at Capital One. I was a contractor at USA. I got a job with Sears. I got fired from that job. Then I was a contractor at Johnson and Johnson. I tend to get fired when I'm an employee though. But yeah, I would say most of I would say to you that since 2005, 99, no, I'm gonna say since 2000, yeah, I say 2005. Since 2005, 99% of my money that I've made before Bearded Eagle, because Bearded Eagle came in about 2011, and Bearded Eagle didn't really effectively have a contract at 2012, 2013, somewhere in that range. Um, no, in 2011 we had a contract, right? So really from 2005 to 2000, let's say 2012, 99% of my money was from contracts. 99%, right? There was the one stint I had with Sears, which lasted for about a month and a half. Um, and so literally 99% of my money from contracts, right? Um, did I have a portfolio? Yes, I had a portfolio, and my portfolio was my work. Um, and I didn't, like coming out of college, I created a paper portfolio, right? Um, I had names, right? So I had references that could vouch for what I'd done. And so in 2008, I had been a part of a 200-person portfolio while I was the Agile coach over that. And we delivered the first product where you scan the check and deposit in the bank. I had names, right? So I had the receipts for that. And so for me, my opportunities came from me creating good relationships with people and then using those people to tell me about other opportunities, right? And so my name preceded itself because of the people that I knew that I worked with along the way. So just like when I became a certified Scrum trainer, I'd work real close with people, and it became a little bit easier for me, right, at that point because they know I had some real experience. So my portfolio was through my references. It wasn't through me physically showing anybody anything, um, and that was based on real life experience at that point, right? Um, so yeah, so that's how it worked out, right? At least for me. So hopefully that helps. Hopefully that helps in terms of answering that question. But yeah, I spent most of my time contracting. Um, Initially, I didn't have an emergency fund, but make sure that you have an emergency fund. It makes it so much easier when you get fired when you have an emergency fund. Okay, it really does, right? Or when they don't renew the contract, right? You don't have to get fired per se, right? But if they don't renew the contract, you're still not working. Okay. What is your prediction on AI? I mean, I have no prediction on AI. I'm going to tell you right now, China is really very simple. Go learn AI stuff. Like, this is not a prediction. Like, this is not a prediction. It's here, right? Um, Last year, maybe the year before that, I saw a AI Scrum Master. You know, you have to remember, you have to look at history. And the way history classically works is AI or technology find ways to give us efficiencies. Efficiencies mean people don't have to do particular types of work anymore. So, with those efficiencies, if you don't reskill, you're kind of stuck. You understand where I'm coming from? So, it's what I think about in terms of people who work in coal mines to this very day. Those people, if they don't reskill as we get more clean energy, they're not going to have any place to go. Does that make sense? And technology, forget AI for a second, because AI is included in this, right? It's going to be replacing a lot of skills. It will, right? And so I am taking my time to learn about AI. I am diving into AI. I've been dove into AI, right? Because I know that I need to have those skills to future proof myself. So forget a scrum master, forget a product owner for a second. Everybody on the planet needs to always prepare for technology shifting how we do work. Period. Period. Right? Um, and if you don't prepare yourself for that, you are going to put yourself in a situation. And I think Patrick says it really, really simply. Mundane tasks will be handled by AI. And then those mundane tasks that are handled by AI, The other task that you do will be handled by some other new technology in the future. And then some other new technology will come in the future. It always happens. It's been happening over the entire existence of humankind, right? So it behooves you to future proof yourself to make sure that you are good to go. Otherwise, you're just going to be in a situation where it just doesn't work out for you. And that's not about Scrum Masters at all. It's not about product owners at all. That is not about Agile at all. It's a fact of life. Deal with it so and then you don't end up being out the door. Does that make sense? So very, very important. Shouldn't creep up on you because we see these things coming slowly but surely. Okay. What's the hardest part of being a Scrum Master? The culture. It's culture, culture, culture. Above and beyond anything else. That culture that exists inside of an organization that, um, may not want to change, maybe a stab you in the back kind of culture. So it's really just basically the culture has always been the hardest part for me as a Scrum Master. Um, in terms of being a Scrum Master that is not a part of the company, well, a Scrum Master that was a part of the company, the hardest part for me then wasn't necessarily culture, it was politics. As a consultant, I kind of remove myself from the culture, from the politic part. So the hardest part personally for me was all the politic games that people were playing when I was inside of an organization. But once I removed that, it was really culture. It was really just culture, culture, culture. And there's so many elements to that that it really is almost like a cheat for me to say it, but I don't know how it's not a fact for most people in the room. And I'll ask other people here. A lot of you have been involved with Scrum for a while. What is the hardest thing that you find as a Scrum Master? What is the most difficult thing that you have to deal with? In general, for me, it's culture. It's just culture overall. The nature of change, because change always happens and people don't want to change. But for me, that goes back to the culture. You know, it just is what it is. It's just part of what happens, right? Um, so yeah, so I'll leave it at that. But please, other people, what's that hardest part of being a Scrum Master? Throw it in the chat. Let's help Renisha out. Yeah, let's see. Anthony's working for a vendor service provider. Yeah, the client is a top tier list Fortune 500 finance company. I'm currently tasked to coach a number of Scrum teams within my portfolio. That's always a beautiful thing, right? I mean, literally, and working for large organizations allows you to be able to do that. Patrick added to the other topic, each innovation brings an opportunity. Absolutely for upskilling. And you just have to arm yourself. That's perfectly said, right? With the information, upskill in the area that best complements your current skills. Patrick couldn't say it any better. I mean, I agree with you 100%, Patrick, on that. Most of these things should not be sneaking up on you. You know it's coming. You know it's coming. You know it's coming, right? So don't let it sneak up on you. If you let it sneak up on you, that's your fault at that point. It really is your fault, right? Especially in today's world, it's information rich. You know what I'm saying? It's information rich, right? Um, yeah, I'm experienced with ServiceNow. I actually at Rackspace did one of the first implementations that ServiceNow had in the company when I was at Rackspace. Right, that's a whole nother story though. That only can be talked about privately. Right. But yeah, I have experience with ServiceNow. Okay, all right, people. I think I got agreements that culture, culture, culture was it, right? Here's the deal. I'm gonna say to you all, please like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. This is what we do every Monday. Next Monday, we're gonna be talking about Agilicious, skyrocket your salary. That's what we're gonna be talking about. So look, it's been a pleasure. I think this was a good topic. Hopefully, you got some value out of it. There are some people that gave me some receipts saying, yeah, that's about right. Yeah, that's about right in terms of salaries. All the information that I gave you is from Glassdoor, right? I just went and got the information from there. So you're welcome to go grab that information for whatever role you're thinking about, for whatever role you want to kind of matriculate to. You can do that yourself. and then we just pull it all together, right? I enjoyed this session with you. We're going to continue doing this kind of work together. And look, you all have the most amazing week. And I'll see you on the Agile journey. It's always a fun place to be. And for those that out there going to gatherings, I'm going to go to the I'm going to go to the Scrum gathering in New Orleans this year. I'll make sure I bring it up later. And I think I'm going to be doing something with Agile Alliance this year as well in April, I think. And I think that topic, I actually wrote down the topic that I'm going to do. It's going to be Agile Rehab, putting people first in the Agile descaling, right? So that's the topic I'm going to do. So anyway, this was amazing. I will see you all on the Agile journey. You all have an amazing, amazing, amazing week. Peace. I'll see you all soon. Bye-bye.